AI, artificial intelligence, a lot of the bot technology, kind of machine learning can really take over what we think maybe in 10 years, maybe sooner, maybe a little later. Some of the technical aspects or technical project management aspects, all part of disruption, all part of pros and cons, right? Just need to retool and readapt. Hey guys, we are here in Washington, D.C. We are here for the PMI PMO Symposium. It happens to be Veterans Day this week. We're going to be talking to some veterans and how they've made the transition to project management and IT in the second portion of their career. Let's get started.
Baby, you're the one for me. Baby, you are. I'm madly in love with you. Baby, one for me. Baby, you are meant for me. I'm madly in love with you. Baby, one for me. Meant for me. I'm madly in love with you. Never, never let you go.
Hey guys, here at the PMO Symposium in Washington, D.C. and here with Rolando Talbot, who just gave an excellent presentation on the Entrepreneurial PMO Project Management Office. So, Rolando, welcome. Also a 10-year veteran in the United States Air Force, so very fitting that we're here in D.C. Veterans Day was yesterday, so thank you for your service. I want to talk a little bit about your presentation. You talked about an unbelievable story that really captivated the audience in combat. So tell us a little bit about your role in the Air Force and your team.
So as the Deputy Chief Intelligence Officer, one of my first projects was to figure out how to prevent aircraft from getting shot down and also prevent it from inclement weather. At the time, the project guidelines were pretty strict. My commander said, whatever you do, make sure that you return to base, whatever that project is going to look like. And this was shortly after September 11th, so the notion of sort of turning around and running just wasn't resonating very well with us. But, nonetheless, we executed the project, and I got the opportunity to actually put that project in motion when I deployed overseas in the Middle East. And in this particular scenario and situation, we actually came under hostile fire while supporting Marines that were on the ground in a town outside of Baghdad, and I looked at my guys and I just said, this is what the project requires for us to return to base. My guys gave me that look like, there's no way we're going to do that. So I got on the phone with my commanders and I gave them an alternative kind of plan that would keep us out of harm's way so we wouldn't lose the aircraft but still support the troops on the ground. And ultimately, long story short, got that approval from the commander and was able to execute. And I think the valuable lesson that I learned out of that and kind of what plays into the entrepreneurial project management office is that there's this concept of perceived value. Had I commanded just to return back to base, from my commander's perspective, that would have been a very successful proof of concept of these techniques. But in the end, would that have actually brought value to the people I was serving with? Would it have brought value to the Marines we were supporting? And that was kind of what started this whole idea. Maybe there's something greater than just project completion. That maybe there's actually this perceived value is the projects that we're completing, what that actually means for the people who are consuming our services, and are we actually delivering that value to them? I think scope and dollar amounts and hitting your targets is important, but at the end of the day, if what you're delivering doesn't really meet the needs or solve the problem, then was it really worth it to begin with? So that was kind of the beginning of learning that lesson and that long journey and kind of that realization.
Excellent. And again, this is an abridged version. Obviously, you missed an unbelievable, detailed play-by-play. You felt like you were there. You can feel the heat. I think you said 130 degrees.
130 degrees.
Of the caravans and what they do in terms of unbelievable technology and intel they have on the ground to decipher where there might be a problem, and there was a problem.
There was.
And you acted on it, and you really treated it from a project management perspective. Just kind of piggybacking off of what you said in terms of some of the elements about metrics, right? We always say in project management, you don't create metrics just for the sake of creating metrics. You want to create useful metrics. So talk a little more about in terms of perceived value and where that could be a pitfall for some client organizations.
Yeah, I mean, really, that to me, that's the secret sauce. That's the DNA of when I talk about the entrepreneurial project management office. Is this concept of perceived value? Through a number of years, I came to this realization that highly functional PMOs that feel like they have project success, more often than not, they have this really high perceived value. The people who they're delivering projects for actually see the value because they're getting something out of it that goes beyond the metrics that we collect. And it's almost this exponential relationship. And so when I look at those folks that aren't achieving as much or having issues, I say, what does your community feel about you? What does the community think the value of the PMO is? And typically it's not good for those struggling PMOs. And it's really, that's what we need to focus in is getting the community to feel like you're a partner, you have that seat at the table. So a lot of things that I talk about is really how to get to that point where you're not just seen as the PMO, I have to go to the PMO, or the PMO is something I have to deal with, but really the PMO, I have to use it because that's the only way we're going to be successful.
And it's true, a lot of organizations, in our experience, may view a PMO, a project management organization or office, regardless of what that would look like. They have small ones, they have very robust ones, really depending on your budget, as administrative, overhead, bureaucratic red tape, right? Just another level of barrier to get their things done. So I think it's really about the value that the PMO and mapping that to the strategic priorities of the organization. Now, one slide that I think we're seeing a lot of, especially we mentioned this at the PMI Congress, I think you had a Gartner slide that showed kind of the decline, right, a potential disruption, and that's just the way it is in the world, with the PMO in terms of, why don't you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, and so, Gartner did a study, and we've heard it during this particular conference, that PMOs are going to stay pretty much flat in their growth. Gartner actually took that one step further and looked at IT PMOs and said that basically by 2030, not only will the number of PMOs decrease, given things like these self-service tools that are out there, AI, the fact that a lot of PMOs are doing change management now, but that actually the work that PMOs are currently doing now will be decreased by 80% in 2030. So, for me, that's a wake-up call. That something needs to change. The PMO is not evolving as quickly as it needs to. And that's really where this nexus of the entrepreneurial project management comes in. If anything, I look at the PMO as almost like a small business. And to stay competitive, you need that advantage over, tools that are out there and other directions that your organization is going. And you need to do what it takes in order to get the PMO to stay relevant.
So again, just to piggyback on that as well, AI, artificial intelligence, a lot of the bot technology, kind of machine learning, can really take over what we think maybe in 10 years, maybe sooner, maybe a little later. Some of the technical aspects or technical project management aspects, all part of disruption, all part of pros and cons, right? Just need to retool and readapt. Excellent. Well, great job.
Thank you.
Rondo, we'll see you in the next one.